Good evening, students. Today I would be solving the NEET 2023 bio paper. The version which I'm solving is version F5. Now, comparatively, if I see this year's paper, I would say it is easier than the last year's paper, as in there were no surprises here. The type of questions were what was expected. You had matched the columns, you had factual questions, you had assertion reasons, you had statement based questions. So all in all, I would consider this paper not to be, uh, unexpected. It is something which would be, in fact, more towards the easier side as compared to what is last year. So we would start solving the questions of the paper now. So we go on to the first question, which talks about the Earth Summit. This is a biodiversity question. The Earth Summit was conducted in 1992. So the answer for this would be option number one. The second question talks about pleiotropism. You know, phenylketonuria is the example of pleiotropism, whereby a single gene is responsible for affecting multiple phenotypic expressions. So the answer would be two in this case. The third question talks about movement against the concentration gradient, and that type of transport is active transport. Pretty straightforward as a question. The next question talks about the ATP usage and NADPH2 during the Calvin cycle. So it is 6 revolutions of Calvin cycle, which would require 18 ATP and 12 NADPH2. So the option number one here in this case would be the answer. Which of the following stages of meiosis involves the division of centromere? The splitting of centromere occurs during anaphase, that too in the anaphase 2. So the answer would be anaphase 2. The next question is two statements. Endarch and exarch are the terms often used for describing the position of secondary xylem. First of all, this is a wrong statement because endarch exarch is not related to secondary xylem. Endarch and exarch, first of all, is related to primary xylem, and that too it is related to protoxylem, metaxylem. So this is a wrong statement. I would consider this as wrong. And the second statement, exarch condition is most common feature found in root. Yes, it is true. So the first statement is incorrect. The second is true. So our answer would be option number three in this case. We go on to the next question now. This is 107, frequency of recombination between gene pairs on the same chromosome. Now, this is the gene map concept. You know, Morgan's student, Alfred Sturtevant, was the one who gave this concept. So our answer in this case would be option number two, that is Alfred Sturtevant. Which hormone initiates internodal elongation in deep water ice plant? If you know, ethylene has the feature to keep the deep water ice plants above the water level by causing internodal elongation. In tissue culture experiment, leaf mesophyll cells are put in culture medium to form a callus. What is this? Now, mesophyll is permanent tissue. If it is becoming callus, which is undifferentiated, that means it is a process of de-differentiation, which is reverse of differentiation. So answer would be de-differentiation, option number one. In the next question, they have asked you about a fertilized embryo sac. Now, in a fertilized embryo sac, the diploid condition would be found in case of. So now they've asked where is the diploid condition found. So here we would mark the diploid. So if they have asked you haploid, diploid, and the haploid, diploid, and triploid structure. So the only option in which the diploid one is in the middle is this option. And so I would mark this as our answer. The option number two would be our answer. So synergids, zygote, and the pen. Of course, it's not such a great question because in the fertilized embryo sac, the synergid does get used up. But we would mark synergid, zygote, and pen because they have asked haploid, diploid, and triploid sequentially. Which micronutrient is required for splitting of water? Photolysis is done by manganoproteins, which includes manganese, chlorides, and proteins. So manganese is given in this option we mark here. Now, this question tells you about the exile placentation. Now, in this, we know exile placentation is case of It's found in China rose. It's found in lemon. It's found in tomatoes. It's also found in petunia. If you see here, these options which have been given, all these options which have been given, lupin and pea, would be examples of marginal placentation. Whereas if you talk of mustard and all of this is an example of parietal placentation. So the only option which is left for us is China rose, petunia, lemon, tomatoes. So answer three in this case is what we will mark. We go on to the next page now. The next question is an assertion reason question, which talks about late wood has fewer xylem elements with narrow vessels. Yes, late wood is something which develops during winters. The late wood is also called as autumn wood. It is, why does it have narrow vessels and why does it have less elements? Because of the activity of cambium being lesser in case of winters. So here I would say it is a correct explanation. I would answer as option number 4. Spraying of phytohormone on juvenile conifers. Hastening the maturity period of juvenile conifers is a function which has been given for gibberellins. So answer would be gibberellic acid, that is GA, option number 1 in this case. During the purification process, the recombinant DNA technology, addition of chilled ethanol leads to precipitation of DNA. That is option number 1. You call that process of extraction as spooling and all that. The next question, the first stage of gametophyte in life cycle of moss is protonema. Yes, that is true. Protonema is young gametophyte. This protonema develops directly from the spores produced in the capsule. That is why it is the first stage. So I would mark here as option number 4 because it is the correct explanation. The protonema is the first stage because it develops directly from the spore. Among eukaryotes, replication, so this is a very easy question, replication occurs in the S phase. GPP is gross primary productivity. You subtract the respiratory loss, you get net primary productivity. So R stands for respiratory loss. In gene gun method, we use tungsten and gold beads. So your answer would be option number 2, pretty straightforward. Large, colorful, fragrant is again commonly found in insect pollination. Straightforward question. Family Fabaceae, that is Leguminosae, by the way, differs from Solanaceae and Liliaceae with respect to stamens. If you know Fabaceae and Leguminosae, in our floral formula, we write A9 plus 1. That means we have stamens which are in groups of 2. So that is a property of diadelphys. So our answer would be 4 in this case. Identify the pair of heterosporous pteridophytes. There are two genera in pteridophytes which are heterosporous. One is Selaginella, the other is Salvinia. So in this case, our answer would be option number 2. Pardon me, option number 1, which is Selaginella and Salvinia. The evil quartet, which leads to loss of biodiversity, the evil quartet, which leads to extinction of species. Out of this, the most dangerous or the commonest one is habitat loss and the fragmentation of the segment. So the most common would be option number 4. UV radiation, you know, DNA staining with ethidium bromide gives you bright orange color when you stain it with UV, when you stain it with ethidium bromide and observe it under UV. Express sequence tag is the mechanism by which you study only the expressed sequence of DNA. The expressed sequence of DNA are those which can form RNA. So that is option number 4. The next question is pretty straightforward. The reaction center of pigment system 2 is the one which is having the maximum of chlorophyll 680 nanometer. Two statements. The forces generated by transpiration can lift a xylem-sized column of water up to 130 meters in height. That's correct. The transpiration cools the leaf surface sometimes by 10 to 15 degrees by evaporative cooling. That is correct. So both the statements are correct. Pretty straightforward here. This is the part which has been given under transpiration. What is the function of tassels in the corn? Mind you, tassels of corn are stigma and style. If they are stigma and style, that means they would be helping to trap pollen. So the answer would be option number one. Cellulose does not form blue color because cellulose has a shorter chain. And because cellulose has a shorter chain, it does not have helices, and that's why it can't trap iodine. Starch has helices, and because of the helices in starch, there is trapping. Cellulose has no complex helices. So answer would be option number two. Assertion reason ATP is used at two steps. That's correct. First, they have said is glucose to glucose 6 phosphate, which is correct. Next is fructose to fructose 1,6 diphosphate, which is correct. So, yes, ATP is used in two steps. And why the two steps? Which are the two steps? They have explained. So, it's a correct explanation. Option number four, it's a correct explanation of the assertion. The thickness of the ozone, we have a pretty straightforward question is Dobson's unit. So answer would be option number four. We go on to the next page now. Identify the correct statement. Detritivores perform fragmentation. Yes, they do. They perform the process of fragmentation. Next, so option number four would be, option statement A is the correct statement. The humus is further degraded by some microorganisms by mineralization, correct. Water soluble inorganic nutrients go down in soil and get precipitated by the process of leaching. That's correct. Detritus food chain begins with living organisms. That is incorrect. It begins with dead. Earthworms break down detritus in a smaller particles by a process called as catabolism. Wrong. Catabolism is done by microbes, and detritus breakdown is fragmentation. So D and E are incorrect statement. They have told you to find out the correct statement. So answer would be ABC. What is the role of RNA polymerase type 3? If you remember, RNA polymerase type 3 is responsible for for synthesizing tRNA. So your option of tRNA has been given here. That is option number one. RNA polymerase type 2 helps to form your mRNA, and your rRNA is type 1. They have asked you about type 3. So answer would be option number one. Recombination nodules develop during the process of crossing over, which happens in the Pachytene stage. So answer would be option number one. Unequivocal proof of DNA being the genetic material was given by Hershey and Chase. It is your NCRT line in the first line of Hershey and Chase experiment. So they did the experiment of the T2 phage. So that is the first option, Hershey and Chase. Which one of the following statement is not correct? They have told you to find out which one is not correct. Algal bloom caused by excess of organic matter in water improves water quality. Wrong. It does not improve the water quality. It reduces the water quality. Anyways, they have told us to find out the incorrect statement. Our very first statement, what we have read, is incorrect. So option one is our answer. Water hyacinth grows abundantly in eutrophic water bodies and leads to an uh, imbalance in the ecosystem dynamics. That's a correct statement, mind you. Amount of some toxic substance of industrial wastewater increase at successive trophic levels. That's correct. That's biomagnification. Microorganisms involved in biodegradation of organic matter in a sewage polluted water body consume a lot of oxygen. Yes, that's a correct statement. BOD is the concept. So they have told you to find out the incorrect statement. We mark the first option as the incorrect statement. Lenticels are lens-shaped openings permitting the exchange of gases. That's correct. Bark formed early in the season is called as hard bark. If you remember, the early season one is not hard bark, it is soft bark. So this is wrong. Your next line is bark is a technical term. No, bark is not a technical term. Remember, bark is a non-technical term. That means it's a common term. So this is a wrong statement. Bark refers to periderm and secondary phloem. Yes, that's the correct statement. Phalogen is single layered. Wrong. It's few layered. It's more than one layer. So this is a wrong statement. They have told you to find out the correct statement. Statement A and D are correct in this case. In gymnosperms, the pollen grains are released from the microsporangia and carried by air current. That's correct. Air currents carry the pollen grains to the mouth of the archegonia where the male gametes are discharged and pollen tube is not formed. Wrong. Even gymnosperms produce pollen tube. So it's a wrong statement. Only assertion is true. Reason is false. So answer would be option number two. The next one is the match the column. That is question number 139. They have asked you M phase. Now, M phase is the division phase. So we go by the equational division. In G2 phase, the proteins are synthesized. So we say B1. Quiescent is the inactive stage. So C2. And G1 phase is between M and S. So we say D3. So A4B1, A4B1 is only one combination. That is your option number 2. So we mark A4B1C2 D3. What is the following statement correct about Klinefelter? This disorder was first described by Langdon Down. Wrong. Down syndrome was described by Langdon Down. Such an individual has overall masculine development. However, feminine development is also correct. Is expressed. Yes, this is a correct statement. They show gynecomastia. This is a correct statement. The affected individual is short-statured. Wrong. That's not in case of Klinefelter. The physical, psychomotor, mental development retarded. Wrong. That's in case of Downs. Such individuals are sterile. This is a correct statement. So B and E are the correct statement. I will mark the option number 2. Main steps involved in the recombination. Find out the steps. What we would do first is we would isolate the DNA fragment. Then we will cut the DNA fragment at specific locations. Then we will amplify it. That is amplification using PCR. And then finally we insert it into the host. So it would be CBDA. CBDA is option number 2. How many different types of proteins are found in ribosomes? This is there in your NCRT paragraph of translation process that ribosomes show 80 different types of proteins. Gauss competitive exclusion principle states that two closely related species competing for the same resource cannot coexist indefinitely. Yes, this is the correct statement. One of them would be eliminated, the competitive inferior ones. It's a correct statement. In general, carnivores are more adversely affected by competition than herbivores. In fact, it is the reverse. Herbivores are more affected by competition as compared to carnivores. So 1 is correct, 2 is incorrect. Our answer would be option number 2. Next, what do you need for chemiosmosis? In chemiosmosis, we need ATP synthetase, we need membrane, we need proton gradient, we need proton pump. So yes, in this case, we would mark option number 4. This is ruled out, this is ruled out, this is ruled out because they have said electron gradient. The only option which matches is something which is membrane, proton pump, proton gradient, ATP synthase. Synthase, that is option number 4. We go on to the next question. Given below are two statements. One is rebut assertion reason again. A flower is defined as a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes into floral meristem. Correct. Internode of the shoot gets condensed to form different floral appendages laterally at successive nodes. Yes. So this is a correct explanation because they have shown how it gets modified. They have shown in the reason how does the shoot get modified. So I would say it's a correct explanation and our answer would be option number 4. Mutualism is both getting benefited. So A4, commensalism, one benefit, the other not. So B1, amensalism, one benefit, one harmed. So amensalism, which matches your, would be one lost and the other not benefited, not harmed. So it would be minus and 0. Parasitism is something where one is benefited, the other is harmed. So D3. I will repeat. A will be 4 and B would be 1. A4, B1, C would be 2. Yes. So option number 1 is what matches here. Cohesion is a force of attraction between similar molecules. So it would be A, option 2. Adhesion is something which is attraction between water and the polar surface. So B will be 4. Surface tension is more attraction in liquid phase. So C would be 1. So and guttation is lost in the form of liquid. So D3. So we go for A2, B4, C1, D3. So that's our option number 4. Malonate. So it's a spelling error. It should be malonate. Malonate inhibits. Malonate, if you remember, is a competitive inhibitor of enzyme succinic dehydrogenase. So it is responsible for inhibiting the activity of succinic dehydrogenase. Okay, iron is the activator for catalase. So A will be 3. Zinc helps in oxygen synthesis. So B will be 1. Boron is for cell elongation. So C would be 4. And molybdenum is a part of nitrate reductase. So D will be 2. So it will be 3142. 3142. So that would be our option number 2. Oxidative decarboxylation is brought about by pyruvate dehydrogenase. Glycolysis is EMP pathway. So A will be 2. B will be 4. Oxidative phosphorylation is the other name for electron transport system. So C would be 3. And tricarboxylic cycle, that is Krebs cycle, involves citrate synthesis. So D would be 1. So 2431, 2431, that's option number 3. We go on to the next section. Now we go on to the zoo section, whereby we are having the compulsory section. Which one of the following commonly is the sexually transmitted disease is completely curable? If you remember, there is an NCRT line which says that hepatitis B, HIV, and genital herpes are not completely curable. The only one which is completely curable in this case would be gonorrhea. Here we match. CCK is responsible for stimulating the pancreas. So option 4. A with 4. Gastric inhibitory peptide acts on the gastric gland. So you will have B3. ANF is released by the heart atria. So A2. And ADH acts on kidneys. So D1. So we will have 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. That would be our option number 4 in this case. Cartilaginous joint would be found between adjacent vertebrae. So A will be 2. Ball and socket. It's a pretty easy question. Ball and socket is between humerus and pectoral girdle. So B will be 4. Fibrous joint is between skull. So C1. Saddle is between carpal and metacarpal of the thumb. So D3. So 2, 4, 1, 3. 2, 4, 1, 3. That is our option number 1. In non-primate mammals, cyclical changes during reproduction is called as estrous cycle. Correct? Estrous cycle is seen in case of non-primates. Primates show something which is called as menstrual cycle. First menstrual cycle begins at puberty. It's called as menopause. That's incorrect. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy. That's a correct statement. So A and C are correct any which ways. Cyclic menstruation extends from menarche to menopause. That's the correct statement too. So A, C, and D are correct statements. Select the correct group of Australian marsupials. In this case, numbat, spotted cuscus, flying salinger. In fact, your first one itself is your Australian marsupials. You have this as the answer. Whereas if you see here, these are the placental mammals. So option number 2 gets ruled out. Option number 3 gets ruled out because of the wolf. Option number 4 gets ruled out because of bobcat. So your answer would be option number 1. Which of the following function is carried out by cytoskeleton in a cell? Cytoskeleton is responsible for motility because it helps in the movement of in amoeboid movement. Also, cytoskeleton has been given. So motility is our answer. Vital capacity is a combination of ERV, IRV, and TV. So option number 3. Now, when you match, you will have the gene A would be for trans acetylase, Y would be for permease. So A would be 3 and B would be, A would be 2 rather, B would be 3. Gene I is for repressive protein, so C will be 4. Z is for beta galactosidase. So D will be 1. So our option will be A2, B3, A2, B3, C4, D1, option number 1. Which of the following technique does not serve the purpose of early diagnosis? PCR, ELISA, and recombinant DNA technology can do early diagnosis, whereas serum and urine analysis will give you the correct reading only when pathogen level is high. So option 1 is not the purpose of early diagnosis. Broad palm with single palm crease, if you know, this is a symptom of Down syndrome. So our option would be option number 4 in this case. Statement 2, vas deferens receives the duct of the from seminal vesicle and opens into the urethra as the ejaculatory duct. That's correct. Cavity of the cervix is called a cervical canal. Along with vagina, it forms the birth canal. That's correct too. So both 1 and 2 are the correct statement. Which of the following blood corpuscles HIV undergoes replication? You know it undergoes replication in the T4, that is T helper cells. So T8 cells. Given below the two statements, amniocentesis for sex determination is one of the strategies. Wrong. Your amniocentesis for sex determination is not the strategy for reproductive care. Amniocentesis for detecting disorders. So this is a false statement. Ban on amniocentesis checks increasing menace of female feticide. Yes. So this is a correct statement. Assertion is false. I would mark option number 3. Okay, fovea is the point of greatest visual acuity. So A would be 3. Iris is the one which regulates the pupil. So B would be 1. Blind spot is where the optic nerve lives. So C4. And sclera is the external layer. So D2. 3142. Our option would be option number 4. We go on to the next question. Low temperature preserves the enzyme in temporarily inactive state, whereas high temperature destroys enzymatic activity because of proteins are denatured by heat. That's a correct statement. When inhibitor closely resembles the substrate in its molecular structure and inhibits the activity of the enzyme, it is known as competitive inhibition. It's a correct statement. Both the statements are correct. I would mark option number 4. We go to the next question. Endometrium is necessary for implantation of the blastocyst. Yes, it is. It is necessary for the implantation, so it's a correct statement. In the absence of fertilization, corpus luteum degenerates. That causes the disintegration of endometrium. Now, this is also a correct statement. I would say both are correct statement, but I don't find that as the reason for endometrium being necessary for the implantation. So I would mark 1. Both of them are true, but it's not the correct explanation. A protein is imagined as a line. The left end represented by the first amino acid is the C terminal. Wrong. The first amino acid is the N terminal. So this is a false statement. Adult human hemoglobin consists of 4 subunits, 2 alpha and 2 beta. It's a correct statement. So first statement is false, second is correct. I would mark option number 3. Once the undigested, unabsorbed substances enter the cecum, their backflow is prevented by ileocecal valve. Pretty straightforward. Nephrons are of 2 types, cortical and juxtamedullary, based on their relative position in cortex and medulla. Correct. Juxtamedullary nephrons have short loop of Henle's. Wrong. Juxtamedullary nephrons have long loop of Henle's. So assertion is true, reason is false. I would mark option number 2. In prokaryotes, the positively charged DNA is held with some negatively charged proteins. Wrong. DNA is always negatively charged, whether it is a prokaryote or whether it is eukaryote, DNA is negatively charged. So option 1, statement 1 is incorrect. Statement 2, in eukaryotes, the negatively charged DNA is wrapped around positively charged histone. That's correct. So 1 is incorrect, 2 is correct. I will mark option number 3. We go on to the next question. P wave. P wave indicates depolarization of atria. So A would be 3. Q wave indicates the beginning of the systole of ventricle. If it's ventricle they're talking of, so B would be 1 as of now. QRS indicates ventricular depolarization, so C would be 4. And D, which is T wave, indicates repolarization of ventricle. So D will be 2. 3142. That would be option number 4. A leopard in and lion in a forest would be competition. So A would be 1. A cuckoo laying egg in a crow's nest is brood parasitism. So B would be 2. Fungi and root of higher plant would be mutualism. C would be 3. This is straightforward here. And D would be 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, which fits in option number 4. Very easy match. This is they have talked about is consanguineous mating, which is mating between relatives. That's shown by a double line. That is option number 1. Find out the correct statement. Biomagnification refers to increase in concentration of toxicant. Yes, this is the correct statement. In fact, this was given in the other question. Presence of large amounts of nutrients in water restricts algal bloom. In fact, it promotes. So this is wrong. Algal bloom decreases fish mortality. Wrong. It increases fish mortality. Eutrophication refers to increase in domestic waste. It does not refers to increase. Eutrophication is aging. So this is a wrong statement, wrong statement, wrong statement. I would mark the first as the correct statement. Not a cloning vector. Probe is a single-stranded DNA molecule. It's not a cloning vector. The others are. Vasectomy is surgical. So A would be 3. Coitus interruptus is natural. So B would be 4. Cervical caps are barriers. So C would be 2. Saheli is oral contraceptive. So D would be 1. 3, 4, 2, 1. That would be option number 1. We go to the next question. RNA mutates at a faster rate. Yes, it is unstable. It is mutating at a faster rate. Virus is having a RNA genome and shorter lifespan, mutate and evolve faster. That's correct. Both the statements are true. I will mark this. Peptic cells release pepsinogen. So A would be 3. Goblet cells mucus. So D would be 1. Oxyntic cells produce HCl. So C4. And hepatic cells produce bile. So D2. 3142. Answer would be option number 2 in this case. Ringworm is caused by trichophyton. So A would be 2. Filariasis is caused by Wuchereria. So B would be 3. Malaria is caused by Plasmodium. C4. And pneumonia, that is Haemophilus, D1. So we have 2, 3, 4, 1. Answer would be option number 4 in this case. Which of them is not a part of endomembrane system? It's a very common question. You know that these 3 are not a part of the endomembrane system. Endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, and vacuoles are a part of endomembrane system. ACE are not. Ligaments are dense, irregular tissue. Wrong. They are dense, regular tissue. Cartilage is dense, regular tissue. Wrong. It's a specialized tissue. So both the statements are false. Tinea is tapeworm. Tapeworms show flame cells. So A would be 3. Paramecium is contractile vacuole. So B will be 2. Periplanata is earthworms. C would be nephridia. That is 1. Pardon me. Periplanata would be cockroach. So C would be 4. That is uricose glands. Peritima would be earthworm. So it would be 1. So A3, B2, C4, and D1. Our answer would be option number 2. We go to the next question. Heroin. Heroin is known to slow down the body functions, mind you. So heroin would be 2. Marijuana is the one which is will be effect on the cardiovascular system. So I will mark B1. Cocaine interferes with dopamine. C4. And then morphine is a painkiller, so D3. So 2143, that's option number 4. Electrostatic precipitator is most widely used in thermal power plant, correct. Electrostatic precipitator in thermal power plant removes ionizing radiation, wrong. It removes particulate matter. So 1 is correct, 2 is incorrect. I will mark option number 2. Radial symmetry is not found in phylum. Hemichordata, mind you, show bilateral symmetry. So answer would be 1. Tetrad formation is seen during leptotene. Wrong, leptotene does not show tetrad formation. That's seen in case of the pachytene and the bivalent formation and all that. Tetrad is not in leptotene. During anaphase, centromere split and chromatids separate. That's correct. Terminalization occurs during pachytene. That's incorrect. Nucleus, Golgi complex, and ER are reformed during telophase. That's correct. So B and T. Crossing over occurs between sister chromatids. Wrong, it occurs between non-sister chromatids. B and D are the correct option. Answer would be 1. Which of the following is not an advantage? It exposes harmful recessive genes which are eliminated, correct. Elimination of less desirable genes and accumulation of superior genes, yes, we can do it. It decreases productivity of inbred by continuous inbreeding, yes, it's called as inbreeding depression. It decreases homozygosity. Now this, it does not decrease homozygosity, it increases homozygosity. So answer would be option number 4. The unique mammalian characteristics, which are the unique, oh, this is pretty straightforward. You know, hair, pinna, and mammary glands are unique to mammals. Straightforward one. During G0 phase, the cell cycle, the metabolically inactive. No, the cell is not metabolically inactive. It is metabolically active. So this is wrong. Centromere duplicates during S phase. It's correct. 1 is wrong. Second is correct. That would be option 3. Which of the following statements are correct regarding skeletal muscle? Muscle bundles are held together by collagenous connective tissue layer called as fascicle. The muscle bundle is called as, if you see, muscle bundle is not, the muscle bundle is called as fascicle. The fascicle is not the layer. So this is a wrong statement. Sarcoplasmic reticulum of the muscle fiber is a storehouse of calcium. That's correct. Mind you, the first statement, fascia is the cover. Striated appearance of skeletal muscle is due to distribution of actin myosin. That's correct. M line is the functional unit. That's incorrect. So B and C, mind you, are the correct statement. We will mark option number 1. We go on to the next question now. Basophils are most abundant cells. No, they aren't. Neutrophils are the most abundant cells. Basophils secrete histamine, serotonin, heparin. True. They are involved in inflammatory response. True. They have kidney-shaped nucleus. False. They are agranulocytes. False. B and C would be most appropriate. In cockroach, the excretion is brought about by the uricose glands, by nephrocytes, and by the fat body. So option number 2. Excessive loss of body fluid switches off osmoreceptors. Wrong. It switches on the osmoreceptor. ADH facilitates water reabsorption, prevents diuresis. Correct. ANF causes vasodilation. That's correct. It is responsible for reducing the blood pressure. ADH causes increase in blood pressure. Yes, it is correct. ADH is responsible for decreasing the GFR. No, it is incorrect. It increases the GFR. So B, C, D are correct. Our answer would be option 1. Chordates, they have asked you the correct statement. Mid dorsal solid. No, nerve cord is hollow. Presence of closed circulatory system, correct. Presence of paired pharyngeal gills is correct. Dorsal heart, incorrect. It's ventral heart. Pseudocoelomate is correct. They are coelomate. B and C is correct. Option number 1. Match the column. Logistic growth would be when the resources are limited, so A2. Exponential growth unlimited, so B1. Expanding when the pre-reproductive is more. 3. Stable is when both of them, pre and reproductive, is same, so 4. So 2, 1, 3, 4. 2, 1, 3, 4, that's option number 4. The mast cells are found in case of areolar connective tissues, so option 2. Inner surface of bronchiole has ciliated epithelium, so option number 1. Blood is specialized, so 4. Tubular paths have cuboidal, so 3. So match would be 2, 1, 4, 3. 2, 1, 4, 3 is option number 2. The part of the human brain that helps in regulation of sexual behavior. We know limbic system and parts of the hypothalamus helps in control of rage. So straightforward answer, option number 4. Not under thyroid hormone. Maintenance of water balance, yes, they do. Regulation of BMR, yes, they do. Rhythm of sleep-wake cycle, no, it's pineal. Immune system is pineal and thymus. Support RBC, yes, they do. A, B, and E should be the one which is done by thyroid hormone. Mind you, they have said not done by thyroid hormone. So I will mark option 2. C and D are not done by thyroid. Which of the following is the characteristic features regarding sexual dimorphism? You know, anal style are found only in males. So it is the one which is for sexual dimorphism. So option number 1. Which one of the following sequence on the corresponding coding strand if the mRNA is formed? Mind you, mRNA and sequence of coding strand is exactly the same. Even the direction of the mRNA and coding strand would be same. Remember that the sequence of mRNA and coding strand is same. The direction of mRNA and coding strand is same. Only difference would be in the coding strand, there wouldn't be U, there would be T, which would be present. So in this case, if it is AUCG with phi dash, I will mark ATCG with phi dash. So I will mark option number 2. So this completes our solving of the entire paper. That is it from my side. As I told you, it was an easy paper. We look forward now to the actual results, and all the best to all of you for that. Thank you.